Welcome to Minnesota, St. Paul, and Seafoam Stadium. We are so excited to be here for Minnesota Strike's first game of the 2025 PUL season. My name is Rebecca Klein, and I'm here with Kelsey Percy. We're thrilled for a beautiful day and a great game.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. Rebecca, it has been too long since we have been up in this booth, and we've got a really good matchup for this first game. Last year's champions, New York Gridlock, against our home team, Minnesota Strike. And there are definitely some stars to be had, but also a lot of really exciting rookies.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to talk with the coaches from both teams before the game, got a little bit of insight on what to expect from their players today. Of course, lots of names that we might all recognize, but also some really exciting new additions on both sides that we're really thrilled about.
Yeah, it is going to be a good one. And you can see a little bit of the talent right there on the field right now. You know, if you were going to shout out some names from the Gridlock, Rebecca, who would be the first up on your list?
Yeah, so I think the big names that come up are some of the new players for this Gridlock team. Of course, as you mentioned already, they won the championship last year. They were pretty good last year, and then they add names like Abby Hecko, Ella Jungst, names that we have seen playing high-level Ultimate for many, many years. So it's really exciting to see them fit right into the workings of this Gridlock team pretty seamlessly. So I'm personally really excited to see what they can do here in this context.
Yeah, and for a championship team, they had virtually no turnover. Just a couple names that we won't see returning, but also those that wouldn't be here today either. But they do have Jenny De Jesus, who was their high scorer last year. They do bring Yina Cartagena, their assist leader, and Jolie Krebs, who was the official, unofficial MVP of last year's championship game, and also, no small feat, last year's Callahan winner.
Yeah, Krebs is so much fun to watch play. You know, from Nationals last year to club with New York Exist to the PUL context now, it is just so much fun to see her do her thing. So fast, so hard to cover, impeccable throws, and I'm really excited to see how she matches up against Minnesota today.
Yeah, and some serious chemistry that they are already bringing in. You know, pros and cons. If Gridlock has the conditioning to run, they're only brought 16 players, so if they have the conditioning to keep up this small roster, that chemistry and the high caliber of player could really play to their favor. How is Strike going to respond? That's the challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Strike's first game of the season, as we mentioned. This is Gridlock's third game of the season. They're coming off two really strong wins against Philly Surge and Raleigh Radiance. So they probably are going to be feeling pretty good today. Strike, of course, is also excited to be here at our home stadium for our first game of the season. And it's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, so looking at that Strike team, names that you want to call out.
Yeah, well, there are also a couple of new exciting additions on the Strike side of things, namely Aria Kishner, number 20, joins us in Minnesota after moving from Seattle pretty recently. She's a Carleton Syzygy alum, really fast, really dynamic downfield cutter. I'm really excited to see her play. We're also really excited about Eugenia Garza. She is normally number 9. She is wearing number 12 for today's game. Additionally, another really fast, speedy downfield cutter, player who has been in the Minnesota scene since she started picking up the disc, so really awesome to see her at this level. Anyone you're particularly excited to see, Kelsey?
I mean, one of the nice things is the continuity there is. With that rookie set, you also have some longtime veterans of this program and just the Minnesota systems in general. I'm talking about Erica Bacon. I'm talking about Sarah Meckstroff. These are names that a lot of people will know. But another few who actually the Gridlock highlighted as players that they're aware of are kind of that second tier of attack because they know that attacks come from the cutting set with this Minnesota Strike team. So that's going to be players like Emma Poyer. That's going to be like Sarah Munshine and also Danny Byers. You're going to see Steph Woods also taking shots. So a lot of names and a lot of directions that this Strike team can attack from.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we'll be looking at and thinking about is, like we already mentioned, we've got a pretty full Strike roster today. New York Gridlock has traveled with a group of 16. It is a long way from New York, so understandable. But we're going to be looking to see sort of how that plays out over the course of this game. Ultimate is a ton of running, so will they be tired? Will they be able to kind of work with the difference in personnel and play 4 full quarters.
Well, and here's another interesting wrinkle to just kind of add to the mix. It's about the hottest that it's been in Minnesota so far this year. Had this game been yesterday and been 40-degree weather, I almost would say it'd play in Minnesota's favor. Gridlock, of course, has already had a cold game of the year, but little warmer, little further south. But on the turf, it may only be 60, 65 degrees outside, but it feels a lot warmer. How does that affect players? Who gets their legs underneath them first?
Yeah. Welcome to Minnesota, where it is May 3rd and we are just getting to spring, but we are thrilled to be here.
And I'm quite frankly still expecting snow.
Yeah, you never know. It could happen. We're crossing our fingers that it won't.
So it's going to be fun for sure. Again, last year's juggernauts taking on the home team. Crowd starting to fill in the stands. And we are thankful both for the history program and for this team's supporters.
Yeah, we want to take a moment to acknowledge one of our sponsors, Discraft. The Discraft Ultra Star is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. We also want to acknowledge Breakmark. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete collab shops. Some really cool stuff in there. And lastly, if you plan to enjoy today's live stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all donations go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you high-quality live streams like the one today. Thank you for supporting the Strike. Love that media day shot. They really had a great time, it seems like, with the pictures, and they came out awesome.
All kinds of fun. I think I enjoyed the campaigns, the PUL obviously using community and grassroots efforts to support teams, raffling off shirts. I saw a lot of really fun social media campaigns, and players using their network to both grow awareness of the team and also build support to help defray some of this cost for the teams and the players themselves.
Yeah, the traveling is not cheap. New York making their way over to Minneapolis, St. Paul for their first game, and they are driving down to Milwaukee to play the Monarchs tomorrow. So this is a weekend-long trip for them, and we're really glad to be able to support them as they're making their way out. We're seeing the starting 7 for Gridlock and Strike heading out onto the field. Again, not super windy day here in St. Paul, but Seafoam Stadium tends to have a little bit of extra wind. You can see the flags, or at least we can see the flags on next to the field that are blowing not too strong, but there is a little bit of action there. So we might see that affect some of the throws. We'll have to keep an eye on how much effect that has on the game today.
Well, and not much wind has to be remembered. This is by Seafoam Stadium standards, which is there's not
True.
a wind tunnel of 20-mile-an-hour wind right now, but there will still be gusts, and that could be a Strike advantage because home stadium, they're used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Grateful to be here. Seafoam has been the home of the Minnesota Strike for the past few years that we've been part of the PUL, so glad to have this as our home stadium. Looks like Courtney Walby with the Strike is with the disc preparing to pull for our first game, a point of Minnesota Strike's season. We've got Fireside Ostergaard, Garza, Monshine, Cook. That looks like Rupp and LaFrance there as well, ready to get hopefully a first break.
So something that we can expect to see from this Minnesota Strike team, they like to put a lot of pressure, especially on the handle set. They're going to guard probably unders early first, and they like the quick attack on a turn. They want to strike fast and hard.
Good one.
All the puns, all the time. Won't ask for forgiveness.
And here we go. Cartagena catches the pull and drops it off to Malin. Malin finds man to Ryan, up to Jungst. One to watch there. Over to Cartagena. Cartagena, a professional player from Colombia. Fantastic addition to this Gridlock team. Finds Krebs on the undercut, and Krebs shoots it deep. Nice box out and grab by Marie Waverka there. Great grab with a one hand. And Gridlock has their first point of the day.
Yeah, loved that lefty switch up from Yunks, bouncing it off of the sideline, creating an opening. Krebs is going to take that shot every single time. And if you look at it, as we get another look through this replay,
great leading throw there.
You're going to see the edge. She puts enough edge on it that's going to carry over to the side where the defense really can't get to it. Good body up there by Waverka to keep the defense on that side. And then just a gorgeous left-handed snag, bringing it in.
Yep, absolutely. That's a really good start from the Gridlock. Clean offense, not that many throws, not a ton of leg work needed to make that happen. So that's a really good sign that they're firing on all cylinders here.
Yeah, all force side. Strike is going to have to work a little harder to take away that force side, knowing that Gridlock can threaten the other way, but they got to take the force side away first.
Cassie Brown here with the pull for Gridlock. And we get our first look at Minnesota Strike's offensive line. Michaela Daly over to pick it up. Looking around for Bacon, but that's cut off pretty well in the up line. Daly's going to need some help, and she finds Byers right on the open side. And Byers is going to shoot, looking for Wood, as promised. Well, you take one easy point, you give him another easy point right after. We love to see it. This is actually something that Coach Donnie Wood told us to expect before the game.
And almost verbatim of Danny's going to shoot, so Danny Byers is going to shoot, and Steph's is going to just eat it up. I feel like Strike saw that offensive point from Gridlock, was like, we can do it one better.
Yep. We'll take your 5 throw point, and we'll give you a 3 throw point. Really nice edge, just like you were talking about on the last one from Byers. And maybe some defensive breakdown there. Wood was quite open. I know she is super speedy, but, maybe some defensive miscommunication there.
So quick 1-2 punch from both. This is where it becomes interesting. Which defensive line can exert sufficient pressure when you have such high-powered offenses? It really becomes a challenge and a very interesting chess match.
Yep, and again, just like the first point for Gridlock, that point was also open side cuts, right? So we're not getting that pressure downfield that we would like to see quite yet. So who's going to crack first and maybe get a turn on the defensive side? Monshine with the pull for Strike. Ella Jungst is charging downfield, always the first one out after the pull. Love to see it. We're centering here to Malin. Malin and Cartagena working together in the handler set. Cartagena finds Jenny DeJesus, whose name we will probably be saying frequently today. Nice around from DeJesus over to Cartagena. And they are on that far side now.
So something that'll be interesting is in previous games this season when they had bigger rosters to play with, they were running more XY.
Yep, and we got, nice block from Fireside Ostergaard, but unfortunately maxed it right into Krebs' hands. Really good effort on Fireside Ostergaard's part to get there and get her hand on that. But better concentration there from Krebs. So a little bit lucky on both sides. Great throw from Cartagena to get it there.
Yeah, that's a huge effort, and something that I'll be super interested to see is you're seeing a little bit more maybe offensive and defensive line continuity. Again, that smack was there, and you got to wonder, Fireside Ostergaard is explosive. If she leaves her feet there, gives it a little bit more effort, does it knock it far enough away? Or it's just no way to get that. That throw had some good sauce on it. But yeah, this Gridlock team likes to run more XY versus O&D lines because they have that depth. But they're missing a couple key pieces. They don't have Pressburg. They don't have Valeria Cardenas. Pieces that usually they can load up so that, whatever line they put out there has 3 rock-solid offensive handlers that can play intensive defense. Does that change their strategy as they're rolling through lines? This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. How much do they cross over? How much fatigue does that create?
Yep. Beautiful pull from Sam Harris, getting it all the way to the other end zone line. Byers has it at about the 25-yard line. Back to Daly. Bacon's coming back for some help, and Daly finds Poyer on an undercut, bumps it over to Bacon. Bacon's going to shoot with a big backhand huck, looking for Byers. That one's going to trail out of bounds, so that could be the wind sort of rearing its head there. Byers had some space, but wind pushing it out to the far sideline. So that's our first turnover of the game. Gridlock is going to pick it up at about the 35-yard line, it looks like.
Could be win, but I don't think that disc had the angle that Bacon wanted. You know, with the gust that we've seen so far, you want it a little bit lower. You want it more sharply angled to cut through. It hung up too much, even if it had stayed in bounds.
Brown gets it off the sideline right away to Abby Hecko. Over to Wong. And Wong finds Harris. Oh, close block there from Byers, but Ding holds on to it. Looking for the reset. Poyer doing a great job of shutting down Abby Hecko there on the reset, but does find Wong. Wong was, I think, looking for a Ding, but instead finds Hecko, and Hecko immediately hucks it, looking for Banter Ryan, and that is a break for Gridlock.
That's a huge one. And you saw it, I think the intensity and the ferocity that Gridlock is playing with. There are a lot of close calls, a lot of pressured plays, intensive defense. And their focus was so lasered that they're retaining discs. They're continuing in flow. They're not flinching. And they're also moving at a really fast tempo. This is going to be interesting. How much can they maintain it with the shorter numbers? But that's the confidence that you expect to see from a championship team.
Yep. And right here we see Wong looking for Ding, goes right past her, but great diving grab by Hecko to save that play. And then sometimes when that happens, when the defense is caught a little bit off guard, you've got someone open further deep. So nice grab by Banter Ryan to grab it between two strike defenders.
And check out, the crowd is filling in. This is a great turnout for the season opener. Seeing lots of strike jerseys out there. Pretty fiery artwork this year from the Minnesota Strike.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a retro vibe, I would say. Maybe like a little 90s, a little 2000s.
So retro.
I'm dating all of us, I think. But they are pretty funky. All right, so nice floaty pull there from the Gridlock. An unfortunate drop there from Rupp. I think it was coming in a little bit farther than she expected. She had to back up to try to grab it and wasn't able to hold on. So Gridlock have really good position here to potentially score another break. Hecko and Brown playing catch in the backfield right now. They're going to be patient and take their time. They've got Cartagena right 5 yards away from the end zone. She finds Nikki Hare for the layout catch and another break for New York Gridlock.
No hesitation from Gridlock. They show really good discipline, working around the edges, getting close, and then continuing to clear out space so there's an open lane for Cartagena's shot. You notice that they got it into the hands of Cartagena and then didn't try to get it back out. Yeah, just unfortunate.
It happens to all of us. The most important thing is to, as we say, have a goldfish memory. Next point is a totally different story.
Well, and turn around and play defense. So I will say I liked the resistance from Strike there on their red zone. You know, that it wasn't just a 1-2 punch. You know, Gridlock really having to work to get it in and having to go through multiple options and cuts. But, yeah, with a danger like Cartagena there on the front cone, yeah, she's going to get her shot.
Yep. Yeah, we're seeing some of the same players on Gridlock coming back out for this defensive point. That last one was on the shorter side, so we've got Harris out there again. Nikki Hare, who just scored the last goal, is on that line as well. Another strong pull there from Sam Harris. And Daly stops it right around the 20-yard line up to Bacon.
Interesting, and this is the coach in me coming out, that Strike is not choosing to back up the player receiving the pull. I would expect to see someone behind in case it skips past.
Yep, so that situation wouldn't happen again where they're backtracking to try to catch it. Miscommunication, it looked like, on that throw to Byers, so Strike turn it over and Gridlock pick it up again. We've got Wong with the disc here. Hecko and Wong working together in the backfield. There's a lot of space between the handlers and the vert stack right now. Cassie Brown moves it up a little bit. Over to Chelsea Leader. Lots of space to work with over to Hecko. Hare is very wide open and finds Hecko again. Not playing with any urgency, Gridlock is. Then they don't need to. They're finding their open players. A nice round throw from Hecko back to Nikki Hare.
A lot of switching and kind of going back and forth by the defense and Strike. Interesting that they feel all players can play the defense, but it's also giving Gridlock some open shots to reset, but they're not gaining anything.
Yep, and it looks like we've got a timeout here, so Gridlock coaches wanting to give a different line some time here. Again, they're about 5-10 yards from the front of the end zone, so another really good opportunity for them to run that end zone set like we just saw in the last point.
And obviously here, playing pro, one of the big differences that you'll find, so playing to time, playing in quarters, but also the ability to call timeouts, sub in entirely new lines or as many players they want to, reset the stall count. So some really interesting factors that make good strategy as a part of it. We'd like to go ahead and at this time thank one of our sponsors, Roya Relational Financial Planning. Roya Relational Financial Planning can help people build healthy relationships with money and financial plans that are designed to help make dreams possible. Learn more and schedule a conversation at www.royamoltaji.com.
All right, so we're back after the timeout. Looks like Cartagena is picking up with the disc. We're up there on the mark, and we got a set play, potentially isolating DeJesus. Youngst is there as well. Finds the reset for Krebs, who continues on an around to DeJesus. That is an around throw that will break you every time.
The in-motion step by Krebs. I gotta shout out a friend of mine, Keith Rayner from Ulti-World. Kyle's Krebs refers to that motion and just the energy in that handle space, the Krebs cycle. And it's both hilarious and dorky and so applicable because she just churns. And like you guard her one direction and she still takes what she wants.
Yep.
It is inevitable.
Yep. Extremely hard to cover. DeJesus as well, a downfield threat that generally will take the space that she wants. And we see it right there. So another break from Gridlock. They're sort of on a roll here. We are 5-1.
Such a potent 1-2 punch. So we're getting from Gridlock here in the first corner, both that they are not making unforced errors, but that their high-level talent is playing exactly like we expected it to. And quite frankly, I think we're seeing those 2 games already in, no nerves to shake off. Strike, a lot of game left to play, but needs to come back, needs to knock in an offensive point and get the defense out there and punching.
Yep, agreed. Pull goes up. We've got Beck picking up for Bacon. Finds Bacon on that up line. And then hits Mexstroth, longtime teammates, the 2 of them on Dragon Thrust. Looking for the inside there to Bacon, and Bacon finds Michaela Daly on the close side here. Nice continue, good timing from Kishner, who toes the sideline. Kishner steps out around and finds Poyer for the score. Great layout from Poyer to catch that, initially looking for Beck. But that's the hold, hopefully, that we need to get ourselves back in this first quarter.
Loved that throw around from Kishner. It's a bold, aggressive shot that it's taking, but I also love the follow through. You can see the wind, that left side as you're facing it corner. So that northwest corner of the stadium is really tough. It's the windiest spot of the whole field, and it's going to be tough on throws. Kishner sends it with confidence, a little bit of a misread, but Poyer the awareness to bring it home.
Yeah, Poyer is one of the fastest players on this field, and we don't often see her lay out because she doesn't need to. She gets there without having to hit the ground. And so awesome to see that side of her play as well. A confident cutter that is perennially a really strong performer for Strike. All right, so we've got a D-line out here now. Looks like Monshine getting ready to pull. So we'll see if Strike can force a turnover from this Gridlock team. I don't think they've turned it over once yet.
And remember, we had a nice, clean 1-2 punch from the offenses to start. So not the first time we've seen this D-line, but they are athletic, they're fast, and we want to see that on display.
Cartagena quarterbacking here in the middle, up to Krebs.
Cartagena loves to carve on that soft inside spot. You're going to see that throw again.
Youngst, the lefty, finds DeJesus. These are, again, on the open side here. Fakes the huck, and then the nice around to Cartagena. Continuing around to Krebs, see if they can cut off those breaks. A nice around again from Krebs.
So far, just feeling like Gridlock's taking everything they want.
Yep, they have some really talented throwers who are able to throw around essentially any mark, which is demoralizing as a mark and really fun to watch as a commentator. Looks like we've got a pick, that hand signal with the sort of goalpost arms. It means that as a defender, anybody got in your way of following your person. It's allowed in basketball, but it is not allowed in ultimate. So Rupp got some time to catch up. Big mark here trying to avoid those breaks. And then Cartagena throws that around over to Malin. Malin looking for Krebs, 3 of them working really nicely together. Krebs looking for Jungst and just can't get there. A little bit of an overshoot. So we've got that first turnover from Gridlock.
And you saw the speed from Jungst. Jungst really looking to chase it down, thought about leaving her feet, but had she done so, almost impossible to toe it in at the angle. That's a smart play to keep her energy. But expect to see those layouts in the future if she's got a little bit more real estate.
Yep.
But big opportunity here for the strike.
Yep.
They need to value this one.
Wallaby is right on that corner that you were just talking about, that northwest corner. Looking for Monshine. Nice floaty grab and a huge full extension bid for Monshine. Excellent stuff. Then looking for Wallaby. Unfortunately, that has the wrong angle on it and goes back towards the opposite end zone. We got a turnover.
I liked the fake to flush the defense, but maybe the adrenaline from that bid and a simple one throw pass locks it in for Gridlock. Opportunity lost there. That's going to be one. You have to ask what if, because we're 6-2, 5-3 feels like a really distant game had Strike been able to punch that one in.
We are going to see this layout again from a different angle. Monshine really gets as long as she possibly can. That looks like the logo on the USA Ultimate sign or something. Great catch. But yeah, we're hoping that Strike can capitalize on those turnovers and those awesome plays a little more next time. And Gridlock get another hold.
So something I will say, short seasons, every game counts in the PUL, right? Just not that many games to go around. But if you're going to see New York, this is a really good time to see them. First game of the season really sets a high bar for execution and for intensity. But I want to see the responses from Strike. I want to see how they handle this adversity. And I want to see adjustments in execution and in strategy. How can they create these openings knowing the caliber of player they're going up against?
Yep, for sure. Cassie Brown with the pull, landing just out of bounds on the far side. So Michaela Daly will pick it up and take it from the center of the field here. This is, again, Strike's O-line got a lot of really speedy, especially downfield cutters here. So looking to see how they can make some offensive magic here. Daly finds Poyer in that underspace. Looks like the mark was a little bit off, so weren't able to get that around. Poyer finds Johnson McKee. There is Steph Wood in the end zone. Sarah Mextroth, the name we haven't really said quite so much yet, but she's making her presence known right here in the first quarter.
Mextroth, a Team USA player, I believe multiple times over, just an incredibly high caliber, and I love the confidence. That shot out into space, still with some touch, so Wood could run onto it, and Wood just really leveraging speed. And it did look like things had kind of collapsed in the cutting space. Not a lot of options, and the aggressiveness with that they attacked this break side really has me happy for the future of this offensive line. This is how they love to play, just ripping up that break side.
Perfect shot there from Mextroth. Great timing there from Wood. Love to see it. Love to see it. Excited for more kind of smooth offensive possessions from the Strike.
And again, back to what the coaches of Gridlock were telling us, this is exactly what they know they have to avoid, is letting the shots come from that middle cutter layer.
Absolutely. We also saw some of the cutters kind of sagging back or moving back into that handler set. Like Johnson McKee getting a nice lefty break throw to start off that string of breaks. Lower pull from Monshine. Gridlock are going to take over around the 38-yard line. Looks like Krebs is picking up back in the backfield with Malin. Big fake, then finds DeJesus and immediately off to the races. That Krebs and Fireside Ostergaard matchup is a really good one. Two really, really quick, speedy players. So keep an eye on that 24 in the white down at the bottom. Jungst finds it on the far side of the field. And up to her teammate Halavadi. There's Wawerka on the far side looking for an around.
Lavity taking a good advantage of being backed as the last back person and just carving up that under.
Krebs finds that around looking for Cartagena. Almost getting that second break off, but it was cut off by Johnson. You can see Jane Cook kind of hunting for that block, and Junks is able to get open regardless. Looks like a pick was called. Cook, it seems like, backed into her teammate while trying to defend and was hampered in her ability to continue marking. So the disc goes back to Cartagena, who had it in her hands when the pick was called.
Interesting how many red zone sets we've seen from, and I won't say sets, but red zone opportunities. We've seen Gridlock marching the full way up the field and setting up the one-on-one.
Yep, I mean, with those breakthrows from Cartagena, it's every cutter's dream, right? Like, you can cut to any place in the end zone, be isolated, and you'll get the disc. Of course, Jenny DeJesus, a absolutely formidable downfield threat as well, and being able to play with a thrower like Cartagena must be a dream.
Something I'd love to see from Strike in those situations when you've got such incredible one-on-ones, why not throw a red zone? Why not just gum up the front when you know they're shooting for that? Make them throw over the top. Make them take not their first option at least once, and try and do something other than, like, they know they want to go one-on-one. They know they just want to set someone in isolation. They know they're clearing out the back. Why not flood up and take away those spaces and then collapse back?
Right. Force them out of their comfort zone a little bit. They've been able to score and throw pretty much at will so far. So what can they do? What can Strike do to put them out of that sort of comfortable flow as we get into the end of this first quarter? We've got Sam Harris with the pull once again. Nice floaty pull, looking like it's heading right for the end zone. Daly backing up to catch it. A little bit of a dangerous one again, but she manages to hang on to it. And we've got Bacon finding Byers right on the end zone or sideline.
Both teams really stretching the width of the field. But I will say I think Gridlock does a better job of hitting there and immediately getting off of it.
Mextroth a round throw for Bacon. Bacon continuing over for Byers. Some nice spacing here. Byers right back to Bacon. Bacon's mark, Wong, had drifted off a little bit. Mextroth now looking for Kishner. Can Kishner body out? Yes, she can. Great body there from Kishner, and the kick spike to complete it.
That's a fun one. I love the fighting against the grain and then flowing back almost downhill on the force side. This is good ultimate from Strike. Again, when they are in rhythm and clicking, it looks beautiful and smooth. Now we just want to see the pressure from the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And great bid there from the Gridlock player, really giving it all she has. But Kishner had that position there. Good job making the bid pretty safe, though.
So Strike coaches, you can see making adjustments there. They've got to be in their heads going, okay, how do we start to carve back part of this lead? You don't want to change too much. You do want to get in your own rhythm. You do want to play your game, but you also don't want to let New York dictate, right?
Right. Absolutely. And, as important as scoring those holds is, getting those offensive points in. If we're down by 3, the Strike has got to get a couple breaks. And a great place to start would be here near the end of the first quarter. Keep in mind that when the clock goes to 0, the team that has possession gets to continue possession until they either turn it over or score. So we might hear the buzzer, but that doesn't mean that the quarter ends right then, except when we get to the fourth quarter. But stay tuned for that later. We've got Gridlock in their flow here. Krebs up to Junkst.
Just carving the corners.
Junkst and Krebs working in the backfield here. I like that Gridlock keeps their cutters back in the backfield there. A nice floaty throw, but finds Wawerka there.
You say nice, I say risky. Shot to end zone.
Great inside shot there to DeJesus. And again, another kick spike. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a fan of a kick spike, so love to see it. Great inside throw, really opening up space there for DeJesus again, who can kind of get open at will. Krebs again showing us the masterful thrower that she is. And don't look now, but that is Krebs's 3rd assist and DeJesus' 4th goal of this first quarter.
Yeah, no surprise from either of those. Well-oiled machine, but I think what I'm enjoying is just how many touches the rest of the Gridlock. There's a lot of distribution and discipline from this team and a lot of confidence down their lines. It's not just make space for their top players, which when you've got this thin a roster, you can't afford to do that. Like, yes, let the players play, but also at the same time, use everyone's legs and work smart and efficiently, and Gridlock is absolutely showing that.
Yep, a really good combination, sort of like we said earlier, of using their top players, allowing them to shine and do what they do best, while also making sure no one is getting overtired.
Taking gorgeous inside shots again and again and again.
All right, so Michaela Daly with the disc here for strike finds Steph Wood isolated in the underspace, and it looks like we have some sort of junky zone here from New York. Not to be unexpected, since, again, Gridlock has a lighter roster. This generally means that they can run a defense without using their legs quite as much. Some saggy players here from the off-handlers. Looks like a diamond. Here's Wood kind of dropping back in that handler space. It seems like Strike is sort of surveying what's going on. Bacon over to Daly.
Yeah, if I'm Strike, I'm probably wanting to use the handles to do a little bit of give-go. Just this swinging in between. They're not really penetrating the layer of defense, and it's forcing them out towards the sides and then kind of clamping down. This is risky for Strike, and I want to see some adjustments quickly, because it's forcing throws into small spaces, just like that.
And Strike does a good job of maintaining possession until the clock expires to not give Gridlock another chance at scoring if they could retain possession before the clock expired. But
they needed that goal.
They also needed that goal. Yeah, that is the
This was
caveat.
A really savvy move by Gridlock to throw out that zone just then. It burned clock. It gave them opportunity. And quite frankly, it was something, because they did it so late in the quarter, not a lot of chance for adjustment for Strike, because this is the first time they're seeing that. I really like that choice by Gridlock.
Yep. All right, well, that is the end of our first quarter here. We'll be back with the second quarter shortly, so stick with us. We're going to take a quick break. See you soon.
Hello, fans of the Minnesota Strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to Minnesota Strike versus New York Gridlock. We are just about to start our second quarter here at Seafoam Stadium. Before we do so, I want to take a quick moment to shout out a couple of our sponsors. First of all, we've got Olympia Granola.
Drink water.
Looking for a delicious treat that is gluten-free, dairy-free, oil-free, peanut-free, and has no artificial preservatives? Try Olympia Granola for a great snack and support professional ultimate frisbee. Also wanting to shout out the Premier Ultimate League, the PUL. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission.
Just coming out of
Head
it,
to premierultimateleague.com
really
to donate today. Love to see the full stadium, the crowd here supporting the Minnesota Strike. Again, beautiful spring day here in St. Paul. Out to see the show.
Yeah, this is just fun to see this team growing in its following and support. You hear the crowd getting really loud on big plays. We will maybe wait for a lull to give you our first quarter analysis, but in the meantime.
Nice poach block there from Banter Ryan. Really reading that space extremely well and making a very safe poach. Love to see that as a Gridlock fan. So we've got Hare here. Stall count's getting high. She's able to find Hecko over to Banter Ryan. Up to Sam Harris on the far side of the field here. Looking for that up line, and we've got Leader pretty open in that up line spot. Looks like Leader is going to take an injury, I believe. That tapping the shoulder signal usually signifies injury. She's pointing at the back of her leg. Hopefully she's okay.
Yeah, that was a bit of an awkward catch where not far enough away to really bid, but definitely had to get low to keep it up. So hopefully
appears to be in good spirits. So hopefully just to be safe. Looks like Gridlock subs in Jenny DeJesus. And once again, we see Gridlock about 15 yards outside the end zone, so another really good chance for them to practice this end zone set, see what Strike can put up in terms of defense. DeJesus looking for a reset, finds Brown. Contested grab there from Daly. Looks like they may have gotten there at the same time, and Ty does go to offense. Those fakes moving that mark around, finding Hecko. Hecko looking for that reset. Great defense by Byers. Oh, wow. They both laid out. I don't know who caught it. I guess it was DeJesus. With the kick spike from the ground. It looks like Hare and DeJesus were both laying out from opposite directions. Thankfully, everybody is fine. And it looks like they may have both caught it, but DeJesus came up with it.
Yeah, Bacon at the time signaling up that it was good. That's a tough one for Strike, just getting punched continually again and again. The opportunity, I mean, that run through D was just impressive.
Yeah, that's a great block.
And then the confidence. I mean, Gridlock just running this red zone in high efficiency. A little risky there with two players. DeJesus, though, just locked in. Take another look at this.
And to be fair, pretty good handler defense.
They almost both caught it.
Yeah, it looks like Hare may have caught it, and then DeJesus may have pulled it out of her hand, but the disc did not hit the ground.
Do you get a 0.5 for stats?
I think they both technically get a goal for that, probably. No, I'm not gonna put that down. But good teamwork. Those two have played together on club in the mixed division before, so nice to see them working together to score that goal.
Well, and something to note, both of them recognizing the open space and the throw going to open space, saying, hey, go make a play.
Right. Johnson here in the middle of the field for Strike. She finds Monshine.
Commentator.
Here is the Jenna for the Gridlock score.
game? What adjustments can we make? Where this is a really good opportunity to develop grit, to really focus on that like short-term memory retention, right? You don't want to hold on to it. You just want to focus on the next point, and you want to try to get back into your rhythm and not let New York dictate the pace and cadence of this game.
So it looks like some confusion potentially on the field. Folks started potentially walking back to the line. I'm wondering if maybe offsides was called on the pull. Looks like the strike are picking up the pull pretty close to the center of the field. It did land out of bounds, but I don't think it landed quite that far up. But it looks like we're seeing a little bit more junk zone from Gridlock. Bacon immediately looking for Mexstroth with a great one-handed signature grab there. Dumps off to Poyer. Poyer unmarked, so she's got time. Finding Daly over on the far side. Daly looking to Mexstroth. And again, this is where we want to see Strike be really patient, just like Gridlock has been. And I think I cursed them. Looks like there are a bunch of bodies in the area. Bacon may be considering calling a foul.
Yeah, it was interesting. There were so many players clearing out of the handle set and not anyone necessarily filling in with confidence. I'd almost say too many handlers on the field.
Yeah, just a bit of confusion, miscommunication about who is supposed to go where, and leaving Mexstroth somewhat stranded. It looked like Poyer or Bacon feasibly could have made a play on that disc, but there were a lot of bodies in the way.
And I'm not sure how much contact there was. It might have been like risk, dangerous play just because the congestion of the area, and Bacon felt that she couldn't safely make a play in that space.
Yep.
We're definitely seeing some discussion, and see if we can interpret the gestures going on the field.
Yeah, a thing to note about the dangerous play call in Ultimate is that, you know, if there is contact, of course, that can result in dangerous play. You also are able to call that foul if you felt like there could have been dangerous contact if you had kept moving. It does look like this conversation results in a turnover, though, and Cassie Brown is picking it up. Brown and Wong working together in the backfield. Finds Banta Ryan there on that open side. Again, getting open pretty easily on that open underside is Gridlock. There's Brown on the upline cut. Trying to challenge these around throws. Nice inside throw from Brown to really open up that space. Banta Ryan and Hecko playing catch here on the slightly closer sideline. Nice break throw from Hecko to find Ding.
And this is maybe the first signs of fatigue that I'm seeing. Multiple turns now in this point.
Banta Ryan over on the far side, marked by Bacon. Up to Tang.
I want to note here that it is very much...
Oh, and Byers just gets a finger on it. That concentration lapse causes that turnover there. A breath of fresh air for Strike.
So I want to note that it is absolutely in Strike's benefit to play a messy game with Gridlock. Gridlock has played super clean. These long points are to the advantage of the team with the deeper roster and sideline.
Yep.
And so as much as they would love to play clean and not give opportunities, this back and forth is actually great for Strike.
Throw right along the sideline for Mexstroth. She was not able to hold on to it while also keeping her toes in, unfortunately. So that's another turnover. Looking like we're seeing a timeout call here from Gridlock. Understandably, they have got to be a little wiped.
Yeah, you see hands on knees. Again, that was a long point. The heat is significant for spring in Minnesota when you're out on that turf. Like, it really saps your energy. Small roster. Again, I almost like the messy point for Strike again because it's forcing these players to put in more effort. You saw how hard Gridlock was having to work. They've gone both lengths of the field. Now, I want to see Strike still value a little bit more. They've got to get further downfield. That might have just been because there's not a clear, you've got a clear white line on this near sideline to the stadium. But the far one, you don't. You've got some cones demarcating it, but it's not all the way to the other far line like you might see in the UFA, for example, on the men's pro division.
Yep.
And so that's an awareness game. If you're tired, if you're fatigued, slight brain lapse, slight mental lapse in concentration can give you that, oh, you've got space, but actually Mexstroth doesn't, unable to tow it in.
Yep. Yeah, and I think what you were saying, Kelsey, is really the crux of this, is that doesn't seem like Gridlock's having to work that hard to score these points. It seems like things have been coming really easily for them. So can Strike make them work a little harder after the timeout here? Krebs and Cartagena in the backfield here. Nice inside throw to Malin.
The challenge is they don't want their O-line to have to work harder.
Right,
That's
right.
the challenge.
Krebs here looking for the deep. Looks like there was a stoppage, so I'm wondering if we maybe have a pick. Jungst with miles of open yardage.
Just so open.
She's really fast, but I don't know if she's that fast.
I don't know. Some people would say so.
So it looks like the disc might be coming back. Again, Krebs seemingly having the green light to sort of hit those deep throws, and they're working.
There is no seaming. Absolute green light for days.
All right, yeah, so it looks like Monshine may have called that pick, which allowed Jungst to get as open as she was. So Gridlock will get another try here. Krebs finds, now it looks like we have a violation. So Hendrickson holding up the arms in a V formation, signaling violation. So if players start to move before the disc is tapped in, that would constitute a violation. And I'm guessing that's what happened.
So we have been fortunate so far this game to not have a lot of fouls or violations of any kind.
Jungst right on the sideline. And again, the Gridlock throws are coming off pretty easily. Nice switch there in the backfield. Fireside Ostergaard now following Jungst. Again, that matchup is a good one. Cartagena right in the center of the field and finds an inside to De Jesus.
Scoring machine. Jenny De Jesus is just murder along that front line. You don't want her in isolation. Like, legitimately, put a barricade.
Yeah.
Put 4 players along the line and just don't let her attack it. I would love to see them make Gridlock go over the top.
Yep.
Maybe I should send a text to the coaches. Please guard the line. No, but they are ruthless in the red zone.
Yep.
But I think my favorite part about that point so far, because that was had to burn a timeout in order to switch lines to punch that one in. Yes, they go up another point. Would love to see that Jungst Fireside Ostergaard matchup again. That was a spicy one.
Yep. Yep, Fireside Ostergaard is a really good defensive matchup for players who are really speedy, can change direction really quickly, very quick. So for players like Ellie Jungst, like Jolie Krebs, they're probably going to put Ellie on them. So it's really fun to watch those head-to-heads. All right, so another look at the O-line here from Strike. Hopefully, again, this can be a nice and easy point for them. Looking to see that patience and flow that we've really been seeing from Gridlock here and haven't been seeing quite so much from Minnesota.
Oh, and just in case we didn't shout out to the world, De Jesus, 6 goals. Count them.
Yep.
6 out of 11. Holy buckets.
Must have been that Mall of America roller coaster ride earlier today is giving her the energy. I mean, I can see it.
Gridlock, tell you what, came in loose, forget the cross-country travel, went to the Mall of America not once, their coaches told us, but twice. And meanwhile, Loco's over here going, y'all crazy.
Unfortunate missed throw there, hits the turf, and Gridlock once again has a really good look at the end zone. And who else is isolated but Jenny De Jesus? And a toe-in, 1 throw score from De Jesus from Hecko.
And you can see the grin on De Jesus. That throw from Hecko, a little too casual. Had to go up offhand, get high, entirely within her range of skills, but just so casual. And you can see the wind just popped it up a teensy bit. Could have been a turn, but instead it's another goal for Gridlock.
And also Hecko throwing really easily around that really long mark of Danielle Byers. Byers is kind of known for the limb length, essentially, being really fast, a really, really hard mark.
Ape index.
Exactly, and Hecko makes it look really easy. No small feat that she's been on Team USA multiple times.
So I just want to take this moment while we're still in this first half to call out Valeria Cardenas, Pressburg, and Player are also on this team.
Yep, 3 Gridlock players who are not able to make the trip today. In
Level them up even more.
Yep. Gridlock's game against the Philly Surge, Krebs and Pressburg were kind of in the backfield on every O point, a really good duo. And it's really impressive to see that Gridlock is just seamlessly flowing into whatever personnel they have, and that not really affecting how effective they're able to be.
It's such a depth flex.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Mexstroth up to Poyer on the sideline. Poyer finds Daly and Bacon with some nice timing to get that reset.
As we've gotten deeper into the game, I'm seeing that Gridlock is doing a much better job of stopping the continuation.
Great look from Bacon. Monshine hits the ground again. Love her layout for him. Stretching the neck out a little bit. She looks okay, but hitting the ground that hard, that never feels great. Now she's on the mark here. Looking over for Wong. A little stagnant downfield from Gridlock. Again, maybe feeling the legs a little bit. Hecko with an easier round back to Wong and a scoober. That's our first scoober of the game by my count. Over to Cassie Brown. Sam Harris with the nice under. And these marks are either looking a little straight up or they're just being broken really easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Harris had the Mexstroth matchup, but the nice reverse of that is Harris, who has been punishing with their deep throws, now has to throw around the length of Mexstroth on the mark.
Mm-hmm. Up to Tang here.
Byers almost with that run through, but instead they'll go back around.
There's Harris. Harris without a mark, taking their time. Back over to Brown. Harris stays back in that handler set. Nice inside from Brown up to Hecko. Hecko wants that break side continue, but holsters for now and finds Brown. Back over to Hecko and looking for some movement from the downfield cutters. Looks like maybe another pick was called. Again, we're seeing those goalpost arms. Very helpful for us up here in the booth.
For the first time really so far this game, Strike really successfully locking down, not giving up the downfield. I think maybe as they're getting closer to the red zone, the field condensing, playing really more pressured. Tough run in there, Bacon with Hecko.
Yeah, Bacon peeling off a little bit. Looked like from her body language, Hecko wasn't a huge fan of that, which is understandable. Hecko hits the ground to catch that reset. And we've got Brown here with the disc looking for some downfield help. Instead finds the reset with Hecko. Hecko directing traffic here. Sam Harris finding Cassie Brown again. Again, super patient. You can really see the difference between the patience and the stagnancy. Both are kind of slower moving. And great block there from Jane Cook.
I love that by Poyer.
Poyer. My bad. Then Bacon immediately looking for Poyer. And that curved out of the way a little bit. Great run there by Poyer. Looks like there isn't a foul call. Poyer is going to call an injury, though. There was some contact. It looks like I wonder if Poyer was seeing that there wasn't much space with the sideline there to catch it anyway. That's a tough one.
Yeah, Poyer having to come back to attack it, which I think is why there's not a foul call. That throw just hanging up. It's interesting. Bacon is so used to those transition throws, but now we've seen two Sky just not holding their edge. That's not common, and this was such a good run through D. Strike had doubled up. We're really defending the line, making Gridlock have to come across, but it's really brutal when they can't get this quick counterattack off.
And note that we have 6 seconds left on the clock, so even more brutal now that New York gets to theoretically finish out the quarter with their possession. If Minnesota had kept possession, then potentially they could have finished out the quarter.
Yeah, when you've got Poyer that far downfield, but it's almost a question of, was she already too far downfield? Do you just hold the possession? That's a tough one. So 6 seconds to get possession back, but all Gridlock really has to do is get a throw off.
Looks like there's a little bit of conversation maybe about where folks are setting up when the injury was called. But again, Gridlock will retain possession until there is a turnover or they score. So they can really take all the time they need, which, as we've seen, they're pretty good at.
I would love to see some absolute lockdown defense from Strike here.
Yep, I think we'll consider it a win for Strike if Gridlock are not able to score this point. And there's the buzzer. All right. Well, that's a win in my book. Looks like there was a bit of miscommunication in the handler set there, and Mexstroth able to sort of run down the disc and call it a D.
Oh, and holy cow, a second sooner, and Strike actually gets the disc with a second on the clock. That was a close one. Really good defense. Bit of miscommunication there. And one of the few unforced errors we've seen from this Gridlock team, but they are with a comfortable, dare I say, cushy lead.
Yeah, I mean, this is the New York Gridlock team that we expected to see, you know, having won the championship last year. This is what we were expecting, and they are living up to their name. So some fun halftime action going on here. It is indeed almost May 4th, so we've got some Star Wars action going on.
I don't know if you can hear, but we do have music in the background. Kids marching out onto the field with their lightsabers, and they go at it. All the entertainment here. This is so much fun. So Gridlock nice and loose after their just dominant first half performance.
Yeah, it's easy to be all smiles when you're up 12-4. Also, when you've scored 7 goals of those 12. So DeJesus and Krebs doing some strategic chatting there. But excited to see what we are going to find in the second half here.
DeJesus and Krebs played for the club mixed team, New York Exist, for several years together. Last year, splitting Krebs still with Exist, but DeJesus playing for New York Bent. Both teams making it pretty far into the national scene, Exist especially. Interesting is they're incorporating these pieces. They still have so much chemistry to lean into. But I will be curious to see, you know, again, that conditioning, how much legs does Gridlock still have? They look very comfortable. We just started to see the edges of fatigue. Strike, how strong is their mind, and, you know, how well can they play out this second half?
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll see you on the other side here and come back for our third quarter in just a bit. Stay with us.
Hello, fans of the Minnesota Strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
All right, folks, we are back, and we are just about ready to start our third quarter here. We have our friend Laura Osterlund here with an interview with strike coach Doobie Helm. Take it away, Laura.
Yeah, I'm here with Doobie Helm. Doobie, what has been going well for the team so far this half?
Yeah, things have been going well. Has been our defensive pressure. We knew coming into this game with New York bringing a short roster that we're going to find a lot of success running them really hard, making them work really hard. And when our D's been out there, that's what we've been seeing. I think that's going to pay dividends in the second half for us.
So we're down a couple points here. What adjustments are we going to be making for that second half?
Yeah, I think we're obviously down a bit. First game for us, third game for them. So we're settling into some jitters. First game's a lot of pressure. Taking this halftime to do a big mental reset was big for us. And then coming out in the second half, playing that big defensive game. And when O-line goes out there, we're going to start playing some hot hands, maybe tighten it up a little bit, and really get rolling.
All right, and there you have it. Back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks, Laura. Great to hear from Coach Doobie Helm. Looks like we're about ready to start here in our third quarter. Kelsey, I know we talked a little bit about sort of strategy. This game has been a little lopsided so far. Anything in particular you're looking to see as we start our third quarter?
Yeah,
I think it's really key for Strike to continue to resist in the red zone, just as the onslaught Gridlock has been so powerful as they're going down the field. But when you get into those small compressed spaces, I think it's a real win for Gridlock or for Strike when they can take away the first and second choices and really defend that line. I'd love to see their poise increase and see them reduce their unforced errors. Again, pressure from the D. Gridlock has looked really solid, starting to see the first hints of fatigue. How much can they fight through? How good is their conditioning? And how much will we see that play out here in the second half?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, from the booth here, understanding that lower number of Gridlock players here, sort of thinking, okay, if Strike can sort of hang on within a few points and then later in the game Gridlock starts to get fatigued, then maybe we'll see some close points later, yeah. But there's a long way to go. Hopefully it'll happen, but Strike's got some work to do, especially with Gridlock starting here on the offense to start the third quarter. Cartagena finding Krebs, and Krebs immediately shooting deep to De Jesus. I feel like a broken record, folks. Does look like there's a foul. Nope. De Jesus was just saying, that's my bad, sorry. Nice put from Krebs, and Strike is taking over here.
So you say nice. I'm going to counter you on that. Actually, Rebecca.
Maybe I'm too generous.
No, here's why. I think De Jesus is already too far down the field. It should have been further out in front and hung up a little bit. Yes, Jesus is tall, but she got converged on by Strike players, but this back and forth.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said earlier, this kind of back and forth type of situation may be advantageous for Strike. So we'll look to see if they can get a few throws off. That last turnover was a pretty quick one.
And also, let's get out of Gridlock's red zone.
Absolutely. Rep picking it up here. That big mark from Cartagena. Steph Wood here, so good at getting open in those small spaces. Throws it around to Walby. Walby with the inside throw to Monshine, who is not able to hang on to it. Again, just those unforced errors really killing Minnesota here. And
they're still within the 30. I would have loved to see that throw go up by Wood, but such a good job by Gridlock to cut off that option.
Yep, absolutely. Here's Youngst working with Krebs. Again, that Krebs Fireside Ostergaard matchup. A good one. And Krebs gets that upline space. All she needs is really like 2 inches, and there's a score.
Krebs for the Gridlock score. Score is now 4-13.
Rebecca, do you think there's a world in which Krebs is repeat MVP for the PUL?
It's hard to say. We haven't seen all of the teams play yet this year, but she's making a really good case. I mean, I haven't seen her look bothered in any sense of the word this entire game.
I don't know that we've seen her try yet, which is such a scary thing to say.
Yep, no kidding. So, not quite the way we'd want to start the third quarter for Strike. Of course, we did get a couple turns, making that point last a little longer, but really want to be punching in some breaks here if you're Minnesota. Gridlock at this point probably just enjoying the nice evening, going on a little jog.
Yeah, again, I think the biggest opportunity lost there, that power position by Steph Wood really had a chance to rip it downfield. And as much as the pressure came, I think it should have gone.
Yep.
I think, even if you fake that, I know her backhand's her better throw, but I think it's got to go. I think you've got to stretch the field.
Yep. Daly up to Byers. Byers, whose name we have not said that much so far today. Of course, as I say that, she rips a perfect backhand break to Poyer. That is what we love to see.
And that is that danger, that mid-layer of cutters who are so good in flow, hitting that continuation shot. We would love to see more of those. That is just the way. And you saw Mextraff even in the area, but identified, saw Poyer, backed off. To Poyer goes the glory.
And that mark, essentially Byers taking advantage of that mark, not quite getting back enough in time to get back the force side. So really nice look. Also Poyer catching that with the sun directly in her eyes, so that's pretty impressive. It's just past 6 p.m. here in St. Paul. The sun is setting to the west, which is the closer sideline to our camera. So not an easy feat sometimes catching a deep throw when the sun is directly in your eyes.
Yeah, so just as the heat will be starting to take the edge off down on the turf, instead they have that other factor to play into. We're seeing gusts of wind, nothing steady, nothing predictable, just the little bits that you get as the air currents start to roll up, the air starts to cool. I do not think that will be enough to phase this Gridlock team.
Probably not. Center to Krebs, finds Jungst on the close sideline here. Active mark there from Jane Cook. And there's another switch there, so Fireside Ostergaard back on Jungst. Looks like a pick call.
We're both maintaining our composure, but Rebecca, I think you and I both squee a little bit on the inside when we say Fireside Ostergaard and Jungst going head to head.
And they switch again, so some nice switching movement there. Cook, and wow, what a catch from Cartagena. She reached fully across her defender to grab that out of the air, and then immediately hucks it to Krebs. What a grab, and she was in the end zone.
Garza was there. Garza got position, even threw it a little bit of body, but Jungst just elevating and snagging that one. Shot.
That was Krebs, I believe, who got that catch. Oh, so close was Garza. She just had one more inch.
You are right.
5-14, Gridlock.
Krebs with 3 goals, 3 assists in this game so far. Again, we have a smaller roster from the Gridlock, but that doesn't take away from the fact that their stars are starring right now. De Jesus with those 7 goals, Hecka with 3 assists, Cartagena with 6 assists and 1 goal, and then Krebs with the 3-3 combo right now. And I'm sure it won't be the last of those numbers, so lots more excitement to come. Harris here with the disc, looking for another big pull from them. The last couple of possessions on offense that Strike has had, at least in the last point with that that long put from Byers, looked a little bit more smooth. I think, like we've sort of said earlier, finding places to celebrate, things to see what we can work on for next time, but also acknowledging the good moments when they happen is going to be really important for morale here. Bacon and Daly working together here in the backfield. Looks like some sort of set play potentially, and maybe a junk zone. Poyer finding loads of space under. Up to Louise Beck.
Nice setup by Strike just to carve out and create that space. That's the most just continued flow they've had so far.
Bacon pretty open in that around space, and Beck does a great job. Oh, nice communication. I think that throw was for Byers, but Kishner finds it. And unfortunately just trails out of bounds. Byers is long, but can't quite make that reach, unfortunately.
That's a tough one. I think that's definitely a shot that Kishner will make later on this year. Big opportunity there. They looked so good. Things were clicking. They cross field. That's just execution. Again, a shot they want Kishner to take, rookie or no. That's one that she will definitely complete later on this season.
And not dissimilar to the assist she threw earlier in the first quarter, which was a completion, that sort of around throw. This one not to be. Harris finds it around for Cartagena.
Harris really using legs to punish Bacon.
Great change of direction by Krebs and just snatches it out of the air. I'm honestly surprised that deep hook didn't go up. But there's De Jesus finding Harris. Again, these marks are not taking away the arounds particularly well. We've got Cartagena looking for Krebs. Can she do it again? Nice block by Wood. Both of them sort of jockeying for that space, spotting each other out. Wood really holding her ground and taking that space in front.
You heard the stands get loud. It is interesting. We're seeing more throws hanging up and floating from both teams now. But this was an area that Gridlock really had dialed in the first half. And I'm wondering if fatigue is playing into some of these shots that aren't executed quite as perfectly as before.
Great dive there from Bacon. Michaela Daly was looking a little stranded, not getting a lot of help, but finds Daly. And then great, that's a look there from Wood, I believe. Strel's out of bounds, unfortunately. Seems like maybe there's an injury call from Harris. Unclear if they called the injury before or after the turnover happened, which is important because when an injury is called, the disc goes back to exactly where it was when the injury was called, regardless of if there was a turnover.
And we have seen quite a few shots go out wide. Again, the illusion, the cones are there, but it is hard to see. And we're seeing players just not bring it in. Again, is wind a factor? Is it the line that they're just not sure where that out of bounds is?
Or is it just execution?
Yep. This is also an option. So another break opportunity for Gridlock.
Looks like the disc was pretty far down the field, Cartagena having to run and grab it. But a little bit of confusion. It seems like maybe that disc is not playable, but we should get started back up here very soon. Observer extraordinaire Joey Tillman there with the disc. Shout out.
Always want to shout out our observers. It is tough work. It is not work that I personally would enjoy doing, but we appreciate having them.
Okay, so now Cartagena has a different disc, has run back to where the other disc was, and now is coming back again. I mean, you got to tire them out somehow, am I right? All right, so Cartagena immediately finding Krebs on the reset. Big open space there for Banter Ryan. Lots of time to read. Finds De Jesus, who bobbles it a little bit, but is able to hold on. Nice concentration there. Right on the sideline as well to stay in bounds. Really wants that around. Able to find Wong, who is not covered.
High stall there.
Yep. Banter Ryan has the disc here. Does have a wide open reset. Now Beck is clamping down on that around space a little more. Cartagena catches it right on the sideline. Looks like maybe a travel call. And a stoppage downfield as well. Our observers... Never mind, not a stoppage. And Krebs is able to read that better than anybody. So that is another Cartagena to Jolie Krebs.
I thought that was overthrown.
I did too.
I thought Byers had it. Instead, Krebs pulling it in. That was such an interesting point. Lots of just small, it wasn't pretty. That was not a pretty point for the Gridlock, but they get it done. They still punch it through.
That was actually De Jesus on the assist rather than Cartagena. Really, those three names are the ones we've been saying this entire time. Strike has not come up with a solution for any of those players. Um, 14-5 here with 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
And you're seeing the D-line out for offense. Again, Strike giving some reps to that line, giving their offense a chance to rest since they have played lots and lots of defense against this Gridlock D-line.
Yep.
So good opportunity again. Strike, this is, I think will set them up well for the rest of this season because once you face down this, everything else is downhill, right?
Yep.
Once you face the champions, you know, you get to just build from here. But again, really interested to see what they can still do with another quarter of play.
Yep. And we saw their Rupp kind of waiting until the defense had set up in some ways. It seemed like there were maybe some open cutters, but weren't able to hit them until the defense was on their way down, and then they get a poach block. So another turnover from Strike. Banta Ryan here is looking for Hecko, gets an easy up line. Johnson McKee there is poaching off a little bit in that upline space. Like to see that. Brown and Hecko working together with Ding here.
Strike doing a really good job of containing that throw. Almost went over.
Looking for that inside, and Banta Ryan finds Ding. Those are two names we haven't said quite as much, so nice to see Gridlock sort of diversifying their scoring numbers.
Now that was definitely good resistance from Strike there in the red zone, and Nick Regan almost had a hand on that throw to goal. You can take another look at this. They loved the inside. They like to attack that space. The pressure was there. That's not the easiest window. They've done so many just isolation off the top, and instead of having to punch back through more layers. So if I'm Strike, that is a win. At the same time, it's got to be so tough just continuing to play defense most of the game, having your choices taken away. I agree with you. I think I'd like to see a little bit more pace and tempo on not letting Gridlock dictate so much by their defense.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, some of these possessions from Strike, we haven't even really seen like a completed throw, and that can be, again, really demoralizing. So lots to learn, I think, for the Strike team as they move into their later games this season, and lots to take away. Cartagena here with the pull, the nice sort of 360-degree spin, and lots of float time there, so time for the defense from Gridlock to set up. Bacon and Daly getting the disc moving. Great move from Byers to get open here. Over to Daly. Daly finding Beck open on the far side. Beck with a step around to find Poyer. And Poyer back to Louise. Louise Beck, another nice hybrid player. Performs really well both in the handler set and the cutter set. Back to Bacon. We'll see if Strike can kind of get it off the sideline here, get some space away from the sideline to give them some more options. Real big elevator pass from Bacon to Wood, so it worked. But really would like to see Strike sort of get it off that sideline there, really forcing it up into that one specific spot.
Stall count was rising. I like that Bacon to Wood option. It was executed well considering the space, but I agree. Strike needing to find a way to give itself more options. The one thing I will say, really nice clearing there by the Strike players to make that corner available. Interesting how much Strike is needing to depend on its resets and how effective Gridlock has been at shutting those down.
Yep. Yeah, I know that replay was slowed down a little bit, but definitely getting up there in stall counts.
So we're going to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Olympia Granola. Looking for a delicious treat that is gluten-free, dairy-free, oil-free, peanut-free, and has no artificial preservatives? Try Olympia Granola for a great snack and support professional ultimate frisbee.
All right, so Strike with a D-line point here. Wallaby getting ready to pull. Let's see if they can put some pressure again on these throws from Gridlock that have been looking as easy as can be so far. Malin over to pick up, looking again with Krebs. Nice a way to cut off that first throw there from the Strike defense. But they do get it off to Krebs. A little bit too far, though, unable to grab it, even with the heroic layout there from Krebs. So here we have Strike with really good position. Let's see if they can capitalize and get a break. Walby with the disc, looking for some help. And there's the hammer. That stall count was getting high. And again, that's really too bad.
Gridlock really locked down. There were no reset options. And that is a tough one for Walby to go. I'd almost like to see a shot maybe into the goal. But part of that's like maybe looking at those two defenders, clearing them out and having someone fill from the stack, knowing that defense is there and not waiting for the stall count to rise.
It does look like there was a timeout on the field. Unclear if it was before the turnover was thrown or after. So we'll see who retains possession here.
And while we've got a small spot, we're going to thank another one of our sponsors, Northwestern Health Sci. At Northwestern Health Sciences University, people come first. In the classrooms, the clinics, and the hallways. Learn more about their colleges, programs, and online courses at www.nwhealth.edu.
Another spot here, if you're enjoying today's stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all its donations go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you high-quality costs live streams like this one today. Thanks for supporting the Strike. So we've got a first throw turnover right out of the timeout. That is really a knife if you're Strike. We've got Krebs shooting for Jungst, and that one's just a little too far. Action here from all sides.
And I want to highlight something very quickly, as I know play is underway. The two shots that we've seen go awry for Gridlock are both when the player is already so far down the field. I'd love to see them just look another way. They've already pulled to defense.
Poyer with a floaty forehand shot to Mexstroth. Krebs with that defense. Even though she gives up a lot of height to Mexstroth, still really able to get in there. Does look like there was a foul call, though.
Yeah, we saw Mexstroth maybe gesturing, kind of feeling like there was an elbow in the back. Let's take another look at it.
Yeah, so it looks like Krebs sort of Poyer already signaling for the goal before it gets there. I would also be that confident. I understand that. But really good defensive pressure from Krebs. Looks like they're still talking about it and potentially getting the observer involved. Usually when you take this long to talk about it, we will want to start talking to the observer to sort of keep things moving.
One thing, I do think Krebs absolutely got up and made contact with the disc first. What I'd love to see from this is the disc, again, further out where Mexstroth is not having to jump with Krebs.
It was very floaty.
We've seen the last couple shots from both teams go too short, maybe go up too late. And to me, that's execution.
Yep.
Does look like this one will come to Mex on the goal line.
Yep. So observer upholds the foul call. And Mexstroth has it on the end zone here. Let's see if Strike can take advantage. Nice dump back to Byers. Lots of congestion here and not much in terms of a reset. We got a hammer over the top and another turn. So not what we'd like to see, unfortunately.
Normally that's a classic like Byers to Mexstroth, but there were two other strike cutters in the area, and I think everyone just thought they were clearing.
Yeah.
Sun in the eyes, maybe not finding the disc fast enough. So Gridlock has the disc again.
Oh, Cartagena slices that throw through maybe 3 different Strike players and finds her target, Viverka. De Jesus looking for Jungst. Jungst extends with that arm and grabs the disc. Back over to Krebs. Krebs with a laser. That's a little bit too low and not quite enough floaty for Cartagena. Another long point. We've got just over 30 seconds left in this third quarter, so keep in mind again, we're getting towards the end of that quarter.
So you know that permanent green light I said Krebs had? There's one thing for the coach to say no, and another thing for Krebs to go, okay, I got to do better.
Yeah, that one was not the best look we've seen from her today. We've got Poyer here up to Wood, who again has been a really solid downfield presence for Strike. Up to Bacon, and Bacon is going to shoot it deep for Byers. That one is floating a bit, and Wiverka is able to knock it down right as the clock expires. Looks like a little bit of confusion about whether the clock expired before or after the turnover, which would dictate if the Gridlock get another chance to possess.
So, again, I think we've had the last 4 hucks hanging up, possibly being thrown too late. Definitely to players that were too far down the field. And so you're seeing almost a muscling. You saw it from Krebs going for Jungst, really putting speed on it to try and catch up with a player versus having it timed out into space with the player really cutting onto it. So maybe fatigue towards the end of the game, but both teams we know can execute better.
And it looks like that was the end of the quarter. So, would have loved to see Strike be able to punch that one in, hold on to possession, but unable to happen this time.
So we're going to take this opportunity to thank another one of our sponsors. The Black Heart of St. Paul is a queer soccer bar in the heart of Midway, a bar that brings people together for a drink, drag, or an ultimate watch party. The Black Heart of St. Paul is also the official post-game party location for all Minnesota Strike home games. I.e. see you there later. A Bar of Their Own, another one of our sponsors. Check out A Bar of Their Own in South Minneapolis, the Midwest's first sports bar to exclusively show women's sports, including the away games for your Minnesota Strike.
What an awesome spot. So glad that they are up and running here in the Twin Cities. Great place to hang out. We are going to send it to a quick break after the end of the third quarter here. We will see you on the other side for quarter number 4.
Hello, fans of the Minnesota Strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
All right, folks, and we are back for the beginning of the fourth quarter here at this Minnesota Strike New York Gridlock matchup. More of the same sort of during the third quarter. We're seeing a Gridlock team that's looking quite dominant. Some longer points in that quarter, so maybe having to work just a little bit harder. But Gridlock is kind of taking the points that they want with ease. So as we head into this final quarter, looking to see Minnesota Strike put up some smooth offensive possessions and some more pressure on the defense. Daly over to pick up, or to catch the pull, I should say, up to Bacon. The bouncy mark from DeJesus.
Again, seeing this kind of loose, diamond-shaped zone from Gridlock, obviously taking the chance to get some reps of it early season. Mid-season for them, Lord.
Yeah. Remember that this is the third game of the season for Gridlock and the first for Strike. So we're really seeing the shift there. A nice find to Kishner right in the center of the field from Daly. I do like this decision from Gridlock to try to make this point last a while. They're up by 10 right now. They don't need to push the pace at all.
Also probably saves their legs, quite frankly.
For sure. They do have another game tomorrow with this same small roster.
And we're seeing a lot of, you might say, crossover from what has been their offensive line. But, I mean, quite frankly, they're just running players both ways right now because they can.
Yep. Some nice movement there, continuity from Strike. Bacon now has it in the center of the field. Looking for an option. She's got Daly behind her. Looks like a pick called. We see Louise back downfield returning. Looks like that pick didn't affect the throw that had occurred, so the disc does go back to Daly.
Curious to see if the player out of position is a result of the pick or just a very significant poach by Gridlock.
Great find there from Wood to Louise back. And you hear the crowd. They're so excited. They want to cheer for this team.
Yeah, Steph Wood is having a really good game. And I think just a breath of fresh air in this slog that is, Minnesota's first outing against last year's champs. But I love the confidence, the pace on that throw, just nice, crisp, really stretching the field. That's a good red zone. Just good downhill flow.
And we see DeJesus poaching off a little bit, so good job on Wood and Beck for taking advantage of that and shooting it right to that spot.
Yeah, full recognition to Beck for excellent positioning and just creating that opening around the outside. So, strike, defense, takes the field, gets to pour it on. They haven't had as many opportunities they need to savor these because this, can be part of a powerhouse effort. I do love Strike rotating some newer players onto the field. It's not just about playing your top lines. It is about seasoning other players and giving opportunity.
Yep, we got Frankie Sereniti on this line, all the way to the left on our screen, a new player to Strike, and current student at Carleton College, I believe. All right, so here is Gridlock. Malin over to pick it up on the far side. Finds the around to Cartagena. We're not even seeing the cutters in the same screen as the handler, so lots of space there. Finds Jungst here close to the sideline. Up to Malin again. And a big huck up from Malin looking for DeJesus. Can Sereniti catch up? Yes, although I would be shocked if there isn't a foul call here. And we're seeing a hand signal for foul, no contest.
Yeah, that's a tough one because you definitely want to establish some amount of contact as the defender. You want to get positioning. You want, to get involved on that play. I agree. I think that was too much contact. Tough one, though, because we're continuing to see these hucks float and make that defensive contact not only likely but inevitable, right?
Good news is that we've got 3 Strike defenders down here. Anik Reagan in the space to help out. DeJesus finds Halavati pretty easily for that score, though. Another score for Gridlock.
2 wide open. 2 open. Gridlock just locked in the red zone space. Good vision by Jesus to just turn her back, look at the rest of the field, see what was open. I'm so impressed by the conditioning of this Gridlock team. They look very well seasoned, and in spite of the relative heat and the lots and lots of reps, they're just continuing to go full throttle and not slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were looking at these 2 teams, I don't know if I'd be able to tell which one was playing more relative points per person. So I am really impressed with their clear conditioning, their hard work that has brought them here to be able to run these points so well, even with being tired. Sam Harris here with the pull. Their pulls have been looking really good today, giving the defense plenty of time to set up with lots of float. So even though we don't always talk about it, it's a really big, important part of defense.
Yeah, something to note there is also at this point basically no wind left on the field, has completely died down.
Yeah, truly ideal playing conditions. We've got Daly here who finds Poyer right in the center of the field. Back to Bacon. Wood over on the sideline. Nice grab, being able to toe the sideline and hold on to the disc. Not so easy. Johnson McKee over to Byers. Byers finds an around to Poyer. And Poyer looking for Johnson McKee again. Poyer is streaking up line. Great spacing from Johnson McKee up to Poyer. And an emphatic sort of spike from Poyer. That's a great catch.
That, Rebecca, I want more of that. I loved the pace that Johnson McKee put on that. Watch coming across, and Poyer using legs, just really driving to attack the space, but look how crisp that was. Harris could not cut off the disc. You put any amount of float, that's not a goal. Harris gets the D, but instead, beautifully executed. Watch
really
this again.
Well weighted.
Out in front.
Yeah, that's a really good example of what the Strike team can do. We haven't really gotten to see them do it a whole lot today, unfortunately, but good reminder that this is a really talented team who are capable of some really smooth plays. So we'll want to hold on to that as we move forward.
Well, and I think one of the things we saw some of the next generation, right? We're seeing young players, we're seeing a lot of legs. Who's able to really push up a pace against this Gridlock team that plays at such a high speed?
Yeah, Johnson McKee, a player on Minneapolis Pop in the women's division. She's captaining this year for the second year in a row, so lots of leadership in the Minnesota Ultimate scene. Cartagena catches the pull and sends us to Malin. Kind of nice to see the different configurations of handler players here from the Gridlock. Of course, Cartagena getting lots of touches, but Malin, Krebs, Hecko as well, who I don't think we've seen a ton of in the last few points, maybe resting a little bit.
Was on that last defensive crossover with De Jesus and Krebs, so definitely pulling a full rotation.
Here's Jungst. Jungst and Cook, also a really good matchup, two very fast, speedy players. We've got Halavity over here on the close sideline. Cartagena all the way over to De Jesus with the immediate around throw to Jungst. And great jab step there from De Jesus to get open for that around. All of these throws are just so smooth. Great defense there from Fireside Ostergaard. Again, that matchup from Ellie between her and Krebs is a good one to watch.
So last time Krebs came up with the goal over Ostergaard. Instead, this time, Fireside Ostergaard gets one. Again, I want to see Strike on the counterattack get it out of the red zone. Can they get it off the line?
Unfortunately not. That was a big around throw. I think the stall count was getting a little high. Fireside Ostergaard, to their credit, making a great bid, not able to come up with it. So here's Krebs with the lefty backhand right over her mark's shoulders. To De Jesus. Have you heard me say that before?
Just continues to rack up the goals. I think we're at 8 now for De Jesus.
Indeed.
And that's a tough one. You know, this is the second time or maybe third. I'll have to go back and watch the film and correct myself here, but that New York has just clamped on the reset and downfield options. I'd love to see a flood play on these counterattacks. Just when they're picking up from the cone on the end zone, because it's happened a couple of times now, if they really clear out, maybe getting some other options there. But New York just in prime form on terms of defense.
We also, I'm not sure if we're really seeing a handler sort of set up in the backfield or on the same level as the player with the disc.
For the strike.
To allow for that strike option and then the fill. It just seemed like there wasn't that setup that should be there right from the beginning. And maybe it was just stagnancy or...
Yeah, fair point.
Who knows, but definitely something to work on for Strike before their next game.
So the crowd trying to pump some energy into this Minnesota Strike.
Bacon here with the disc in the middle. Finding Max Stroth isolated in the center. Looks a little junky, a little zony here. Beck up to Poyer. And Poyer with the floaty throw over to Byers. Getting it off the sideline over to Bacon. Would love to see that continue, but finds Wood again on the open side. Wood looking for Poyer, just overshoots again with that sideline right there. Really hard to both catch it and keep the toes in. There's a turnover from Strike. We've got Hecko out there picking up the disc. Again, what a hybrid dynamic player, having watched her play in the youth level, college, worlds level, and now in pro. It's really fun to see her play. We've got Cassie Brown with the big huck looking for Harris. Harris tracking it and able to find it right on the sideline.
The foot speed from Harris to track that one down.
Absolutely. Well done. Composure there from Sam Harris. Throws the around to Krebs. Krebs over to Wong. Wong with the lefty backhand to Brown, and Brown with the easy find to Banter Ryan. Too easy, one might say.
You know, I think Strike did a really good job of stopping up the force side cone and not letting them have it just in rhythm, making them have to go to this break side. But what a tough one. You know, Strike in their red zone, overshooting there. We're just seeing that slightly lower level execution from the Strike in comparison to this Gridlock team who just really looks so dialed in.
Yep, absolutely. Looks like there may have been a timeout call. Unclear. Strike players are on the line ready to go. Gridlock are huddling. And it looks like they did call a timeout indeed. So Strike using the time to get their players ready to go. So we do want to take this time to shout out one of our sponsors, Discraft. The Discraft Ultra Star is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. We'll also take some time to shout out Breakmark. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete collab shops. And thirdly, this live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today. All right, so coming out of this timeout here, we've got Cartagena with the PUL coming up. We'll see what Strike can make happen as we reach the final 5 minutes of our game. Just a reminder here that the end of the fourth quarter is a little bit different than the other three, in that when the timer expires, the game is over, so no final possession to be had here. I think with games like this, Kelsey, it can really be a matter of energy. I know it sounds pretty elementary, but when you're down the entire game, it's really hard to kind of maintain that positive attitude. So hoping to see Strike continue to keep their heads up, have some smiles, excited to be here because Frisbee at the end of the day is a really fun sport, and we're getting to play with our friends and be here on a beautiful Saturday.
Yeah, definitely one of those. We talked about resiliency. We talked about Strike being able to, kind of punch back, try to find their game. We're definitely seeing their athleticism on display.
Great grab from Johnson there, from Johnson McKee. Here is Steph Rupp, and no one back there with her in that handler space again. It's hard to see exactly what the options are there. Great grab from Kishner, who bobbles it and then catches it sort of against her face. Really good concentration. There's Monshine. Monshine finding Regan for the goal. Regan again, almost bobbling a little bit, but holding it on the last second.
Rebecca, that might be Anik Regan's first goal of her PUL career.
It might be. Anik is a McAllister College alum, shout out, and made the switch over to Ultimate after being a track athlete in college. So
can attest. Have both played on the same lines with her and guarded her wicked fast.
Yes, it is true. Well, great point there from Strike. Pretty easy and seamless. We love to see that. Again, things that we can take away with us as we move into game number 2 down the road.
So here's an interesting wrinkle. Because that was a largely kind of defensive line out there on called the rebound or the reset line from Strike. Now who do they choose to put at? Yes, pretty quick, pretty smooth. Do they throw some of those same legs out there? Do now they go deeper into their defensive set and really, play their depth?
This does look like a defensive line. We've got Jane Cook, we've got Ellie Fireside Ostergaard, we got Walby on the pull.
Frankie Serenity out there.
Garza and Maddie Lander as well, with Jess Hendrickson. So let's see if we can put some pressure here on Gridlock's offense. Cartagena catches the disc, working with Krebs as usual. Garza playing some nice lockdown defense on Malin there at the front of the stack. Cartagena giving a nod to someone downfield, and then finds Roverka.
On what else? The inside lane.
Mm-hmm. Nice kind of floaty throw over the head of Serenity to De Jesus.
Look at the confidence. Serenity going up against this De Jesus matchup, but Krebs just elevates for that one.
Jungst with the disc right here on the sideline. Finds that around. Again, Cook and Fireside Oster are doing a good job switching on those matchups when the Gridlock players cut up line. A nice diving grab by Krebs, and then finds the OI throw over to Cartagena, who finds another inside to Jungst.
When you know she's got every throw, but you also know what she likes to play to, it's, give the girl what she wants.
And that is Cartagena's 7th assist. Somehow Jungst's first goal of the day, which feels wrong since she's been so involved in every single one of these points. But getting those numbers on the board now.
Youngst, I think, is someone who's really taken one for the team in that she seems to be really stretching the field and churning out a lot of these yards. Like, if you looked at her yards gained, I think she'd really be up there for this team, but not necessarily the one finishing. And so you are seeing a strong amount of role playing, of players knowing when to clear out and what their role is and how they can best operate. And Youngst, an absolute engine for this Gridlock team.
Absolutely. Youngst, a product of the North Carolina Ultimate scene, which has a really, really strong youth program and continues to churn out extremely strong players who then move to different parts of the country sometimes and bring their talents with them. So I'm sure New York is thrilled to have them as part of the scene.
I say strong youth program, strong college program,
Yes,
strong
yes.
club program,
Strong everything program, let's be real.
I mean, you pick it. Triangle's got it.
Indeed. So that pull lands out of bounds. Looks like Monshine over to, no, give it to Bacon. And looks like that disc went out pretty early. So if the disc lands out of bounds, the offensive team picks it up in the middle of the field on the same plane that the disc went out. So it looks like it went out right around the 45-yard line. So Strike has some good position here.
Yeah, big short field opportunity for Strike.
Poyer with the undercut, looking for a reset. Throws a sort of awkward break throw to Bacon, but it works out. And then we've got Byers with that nice continue. Back to Bacon in the center of the field. Again, we're not seeing a second handler back to help out. I'm assuming that this is part of their set, and I'm really curious to see how it continues to work.
Risky. Lots of players in the field. Byers brings it in.
Yeah, big collision there.
It's so tough when it's defender on defender, where you're basically, yeah, that's really, really tough.
And Byers just sort of plucks it out of the air unscathed. Looks like everyone's okay. That's what's most important. And the goal stands.
That is a good one for Strike to bring in, bringing the separation back down to 10. They've cracked double digits, made it to half, as it were. You know, and that's definitely something that they want more of, right? They want more flow. Byers attacking down the break side, attacking to the force side, attacking back and getting the goal on the break side.
Yep.
You're seeing some of that legs and athleticism that Strike really hasn't been able to unleash yet, and we can expect to see more of down the season.
Absolutely. Monshine getting ready to pull here. We've got just under 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Looking again, hopefully to see some strong pressure on defense from Garza, from Jane Cook. We've got LaFrance on the line here as well. I mentioned her a little bit earlier. A player who's new to the Strike but not new to the sport of Ultimate, and played on Dragon Thrust many years ago before playing in the UK. We've got Malin back with Cartagena for the Gridlock's possession. Again, Youngst extremely open, so not surprised to see a pit call here. Looks to be some discussion. You can see Youngst with her arm over her eyes. That sunlight is really bright right now. We can see that the shadow of the stands is starting to sort of creep onto the field. So the players are really contending with maybe what would be the 8th defender of the sunlight. Looking like Jane Cook chatting with Youngst about this pit call, maybe whether it affected Cook's ability to actually make a play on the disc. If it didn't, then the disc should stay with Youngst.
Interesting. We're seeing full separation. Cook all the way back in the stack.
Some pressure there from Lander. Lavity finds it and immediately shoots it deep. Monshine saying no way, and catches it, but there's not a lot of help downfield then for the next continue. And then we got a turnover. Cartagena then finds De Jesus right away.
And you saw the disc sail. We were at no wind not 5 minutes ago, and now it's gusting again. Something players are going to have to take into consideration. Loved that D from Monshine. Loved the choice to catch the disc, not whack it, because
don't leave it up to chance.
Don't leave it up to chance. But I agree. I think there was a lack of transition, of people getting back and creating opportunities, in a quick transition from New York on defense.
Right. You have 10 seconds to throw the disc, and DeJesus is on the mark right away. So if Strike doesn't start giving Monshine options until stall 5, stall 6, things are going to start getting difficult really quickly. And then New York is able to capitalize on that right away. And for those keeping track at home, that is goal number 9 for Jenny DeJesus and assist number 8 for Gina Cartagena.
Continuing to rack up almost 50% of her team's points. Holy buckets.
And what a treat to see these like absolute all-star players in their prime in the middle of the PUL season, just doing absolutely everything. It's pretty fun to watch. Harris with the pull here. Looks like that one might be floating out of bounds too. We've seen a lot of pulls kind of heading over towards the Gridlock's belongings over there on the sideline. Looks like the wind again has picked up a little bit, maybe floating a little bit towards that far sideline, a little bit to the right side of our screen as well. So maybe not so surprising to see those pulls floating a bit. I'm sure Harris will want some of those back, although many of their pulls have been really fantastic today.
Yeah, you can just see their wind out and gusting. Those flags were limp just a couple minutes ago. Players are going to have to do the mental adjustment and change their throws.
So we have a set play from Strike, that isolated Poyer in the underspace, then finds the continue for Wood. Nice OI inside break from Wood to Daly. And Daly finds Byers for the reset. Byers working hard using that speed to move the disc around, then finding Poyer.
Had power position, but no one going.
Poyer then finds Wood.
Gridlock doing a really nice job of just locking up the back of the stack so no deep options are possible.
Daly finding Bacon on the upline. Nice patient movement there.
Bacon is so consistently back in the handle set. I love it when she shakes it up, heads down. That's a classic strike cut from Erica Bacon. And I am not at all surprised to see a goal on her stat line.
Yep. Again, sort of similar like we were talking about Jungst earlier, that is Daly's first stat of the day. Such an integral part of their offensive handler set that it almost feels surprising that we haven't said her name yet, but really integral into moving the disc around. Just hadn't punched it in quite yet until now, so great to see it. Daly, I believe, coming back from an injury earlier this winter, so really great to see her back at 100% and running the offense for Strike.
Yeah, super steady, makes very few errors, just one of the consistent parts, one of the glue pieces for this Strike offense.
We've got Walby getting ready to pull. Maddie Lander next to her is another new player on the Strike. Played with Minneapolis Pop last year, also a product of Middlebury College. An exciting player joining the Minnesota scene. And Walby with the big pull. This one also heading towards that sideline, but that one stays in. Cartagena picks it up and looking over to Krebs. That cutter space a little far down from Gridlock. They find Jungst on the upline cut. That matchup again between Krebs and Fireside Ostergaard. Lots of quickness and changing direction on both sides there. Jungst and Krebs working together. And a slight miscommunication, so we do see Gridlock actually can make a mistake. Look at Anique Regan taking off.
Crowd getting loud. I love the quick attack, but now who's coming back under?
Back for Sarah Needy. Sarah Needy finds Fireside Ostergaard. And Fireside Ostergaard back to Sarah Needy.
Big break for the Minnesota Strike. The crowd are on their feet. This was the energy. This was what Strike needed. What a way to have it. They fought for it, and now 15 seconds left. Fourth quarter. The Strike really starting to show some fire.
Absolutely, and that would be Sarah Needy's first stat as a Strike player as well, as this is her first game with the team. So really exciting to see that.
Rookies stepping up.
Yeah, great movement, just kind of charging right through that upline space, leaving, looks like Ellie Jungst a little bit confused.
I think there's something to be said for when you don't know that you shouldn't do it or that you can't do it, right? You just go and you do it.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what we're seeing a little bit from these rookies, of no fear, no intimidation, short memory on who it is they're playing against, just going out and playing their offense.
I am hearing the crowd singing happy birthday, so I wonder if it may be Sarah Needy's birthday, maybe Fireside Ostergaard, one of the players who were part of that score. Either way, happy birthday. What a beautiful day to celebrate a birthday. So 21 seconds left in the game. If Gridlock can maintain possession for those last 21 seconds, the game will be over. And we've got Monshine, number 21, with the pull. You see that float kind of bobbed back up again, still landing in bounds. Krebs to Cartagena, and I'm sure they're going to be pretty conservative here with this possession. They don't have any rush. Jungst back to Cartagena.
You can see Cartagena checking over her shoulder, looking for the time.
And here's Krebs. We might see Krebs put up something big with the very end of the clock ticking down. So Krebs looking for her teammates, and disc hits the ground. Lots of bodies in the area there. And it looks like that's going to be the game.
Yeah, a lot of contact. You saw players. Are you going to call it? Am I going to call it? Was there contact? But you know what? New York will take the win. Minnesota will take the last point scored. Lots learned from this game. I think a lot for both teams to be proud of. Definitely more ceiling for your Minnesota Strike, but we have seen the caliber of last year's champions. New York Gridlock are the real deal.
Absolutely, and as we said earlier, the frightening thing is that there is more ceiling for them too. Being able to put up this performance while missing Liv Player, who is an alternate on the World Games team this coming year, as well as the player that some people consider to be the best in the world, Valeria Cardenas. I mean, this team is no joke. The other teams should be worried.
Yeah, so 3 up, 3 down for Minnesota Gridlock. Minnesota Strike, lots of game and season left to play still. We're going to get players shaking, and while we're doing that, we'd like to go ahead and let you know if you enjoyed today's stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all donations go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you the high-quality live streams like this one today. Thank you for supporting the Minnesota Strike. So takeaways, Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean, sort of like we said already, Gridlock is not a team to be messed with. Really excited to see where this team can go. If there's going to be another team that can challenge them for the repeat win, right? We think about the game that they had against Philly Surge that was really close. The other opponents in the future, like the DC Shadow, that could challenge them. What's that going to look like? I think other teams will probably be watching this game back to see this is New York at their best, even though they had a smaller team here with them.
Yeah, definitely a question of, can you match them one-on-one? Do you just try and throw different junk sets to try and break that up? But the arsenal of throws, there's a lot to like about these teams. I think I'm really excited to see the rookie class of this Minnesota Strike team really come into their own. I think those were some of the flashes of brilliance that I saw in today's game. I'd love to see more of that on the field. And I think just, again, a lot of ceiling left for this Minnesota Strike team that we will see further on down the season.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a fan base in Minnesota that loves Ultimate. People here are really excited to cheer this team on. These home games can have the potential for a really electric atmosphere. And in the future, when we hopefully have closer games, we'll be able to see that. So we are really lucky to have Jenny DeJesus on the mic with Laura Osterlund for a quick interview. As a reminder, DeJesus had 2 assists and 9 goals today, so quite a performance. We'd love to hear a little bit from them. Take it away, Laura.
So I am here with Captain Jenny DeJesus. Jenny, great game.
Thank you.
What do you think the team did well this game?
In our huddle before the game, we were really big on outcome doesn't matter. We talked a lot about how when people look around at each other's faces, we don't want anybody to lose energy from that. So just like make sure you're positive, make sure you're supporting each other, celebrating every moment. And we were kind of just like, you know, the rest will come. And I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. And then the second thing I'm the most proud of is, I mean, look at the score. It's our D-line. Like, our D-line just, they stepped up this game in more ways than I could have asked.
So you're turning around tomorrow, going to play Monarchs. Are you making any changes to your game based off of this one?
I'm afraid to give away too much, but we will be changing some things. I think some things were planned before we got on the plane, and then some things we're probably going to discuss with leadership tonight. Gina Cartagena is our other captain. Nina Finley, we'll send her a message. She's somewhere in Madagascar. But we are probably going to make some adjustments, but there was a lot of good that happened today that we definitely want to bring to tomorrow.
And you're midway through your season now. What is your approach going into the second half of the season and in the championship weekend?
We talked about this morning in our team meeting. We want to just be so system-oriented that anybody can have a bad game and that score stays the same, that the next person cycles in, the next person fills in, the next person steps up. And it's more about creating space for each other than it is making space for ourselves. And we've been talking about that today, and I know that's going to be our biggest emphasis tomorrow. It's like, who's not getting involved and how do we get them involved? So I think it's just going to be, you know, that's how you prepare for injuries, that's how you prepare for matchups. You just make sure everybody's as prepared as possible. So I think that's going to be our focus for the next half of the season.
That's hilarious.
And then do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
Oh my God, like everybody who's part of the Gridlock program, like literally everybody. Shout out to Montana Roberts. We lost her for the season and we were terrified going into this game. She's a huge leader. She's a centerpiece of our D-line, of our offense. She does like literally everything. Shout out to Nina. Shout out to our coach Dima, who isn't here, who like the strategy is his little brainchild. Shout out to Izzy Bryant, who was hyping us up at every practice, who couldn't be here either. Like anybody who's involved in Gridlock. And also Rena, who runs Match Fit. That's the person running out with the waters. That's the person telling us we're idiots and that we need to eat. That's the person who designs our workouts. Like, y'all just see the finished product, but we're a bunch of idiots. And like, there's just so many people that take care of us, and we miss them all.
Anything else you want to share?
No, I think that, like, you know, I think just follow along. That's kind of it, you know. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, and there you have it. Back to you in the booth. Okay.
All right, thanks, Laura, and we are back. Really awesome to hear from Jenny DeJesus after that immaculate performance today. Kelsey, as we go into some kind of final highlights here, any final thoughts on today's game?
You know, I think the future is bright. I think it is bright for Women's Pro Ultimate. I loved the athleticism, the caliber of play that we saw. I think we talked about just how much ceiling there is for both of these teams, how excited we are to see, you know, the rest of the season. You can join us coming down in the upcoming weeks, both online or, you know, do yourself a favor, come out and sit in the stands. This was an amazing crowd. These are awesome games. It's a great experience. You know, as much as we love you loving on our voices, we'd love to see you here in person too.
Yeah, Strike's next home game is Saturday, May 31st. So that is 4 weeks from today. We'd love to see you here at Seafoam Stadium for more amazing plays like this. Really exciting start to the season for Strike. It's such a privilege to get to be here to watch and talk about and play the sport that we all love. And we're really glad that everybody listening and everybody here at Seafoam came to enjoy it with us. Again, thanks so much for watching here on YouTube. I'm Rebecca Klein. I'm here with Kelsey Percy, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, everybody.